I'd like you to imagine that human resources one day contacts you and I, and they say to us, is it possible for us to have a shared in-house calendar? And what we could say is absolutely yes. Inside of SharePoint, we have lots of apps. We have lists and libraries and specialized apps that provide lots of functionality. And calendars is just one of many of the apps that are available in a SharePoint environment. So in this nugget, I'd like to elaborate a little bit more about apps and then demonstrate and walk you through step by step on how to create and add apps into our SharePoint environment. Let's begin. One of the things that I personally love about a list is that it helps me keep on track with those things that I have to do. And in a shared environment, we might have a list of things that a group of people would need to see and be aware of. And in previous versions of SharePoint, previous to 2016, we had a feature called a list. And we can think of a list as like a database or an Excel table. It has items. It could be appointments in a calendar list, or contacts in a contact list, or tasks in a task list. We can also create custom lists to suit our needs. And in a SharePoint environment, the ability to collaborate and share lists is fantastic. There's another aspect of SharePoint also called a library. For example, we might have a pages library, or an asset library, or a document library, and the list goes on. No pun intended, referring back to our first option of lists. But a library is a great place to keep stuff. And the question may come up, well, Keith, we're talking about lists and libraries in SharePoint, but how does that relate to SharePoint apps? And the answer is, they're all called apps now. If we have a custom list or a library, those are just a subset of a larger category that SharePoint 2016 simply calls apps. Because at the end of the day, the user is simply looking for the functionality from a feature. So in SharePoint, for example, if we needed to add a calendar functionality, there is an app for that. So instead of having to create a list of items that need to be done on certain dates, there's simply a calendar app that we can select and have it as part of our SharePoint site. Or if we want to do a survey, for example, to get feedback from our team, we could use the survey app. And there are dozens and dozens of apps. So even if we're adding, for example, a new list or a new library, those are also referred to as apps. So in a generic sense, we can think of an app as some type of functionality or feature that we want to leverage or use in a SharePoint environment. So let me walk you through an example of how easy it is to add apps to a SharePoint environment. And we'll use a calendar app, we'll use a survey app, and let's also go ahead and add a picture library as well. Again, all of these are referred to as apps from the perspective of SharePoint 2016. So in our lab environment, let's log on to the Windows 10 client. The username is Bob and the password is Nugget, !23 with a capital N at the beginning, and we'll press enter to log on. So I'll go ahead and click on the desktop and let's launch Chrome to connect over to the SharePoint site. So to get there, we'll go to srv1.nuglab.com and press enter. And after authenticating, that should take us to the top level site for Acme. So we'll authenticate as administrator. We'll use our lab password once more and press enter to log in. So for our demonstration of adding apps, let's go ahead and add some apps to the Human Resources subsite. So we'll click on the top level link here for HR subsite, which takes us to the home page for the HR subsite. And if we wanted to add an app, we could use the Getting Started tile right here for adding lists, libraries, and other apps. And I like the way they phrase that too. Add lists, libraries, and other apps, meaning that lists and libraries are now referred to as apps as well in SharePoint 2016. So that would be one way to add an app, or we could go ahead and use the gear icon in the upper right hand corner here and click on the gear, and then from the drop down we could select add an app. So let's do that. We'll click on add an app from that drop down. So under the noteworthy category, it's got a document library app, it's got a custom list app, and we have a tasks app. And for more details on each of those, we can click on app details and that would show us more information. And if we scroll down a little bit, it'll show us additional apps that we can add into our SharePoint environment as well. So here in the HR subsite, let's go ahead and add a calendar. And the calendar app is right here. So all we need to do is click on calendar and that will add the calendar app to this HR subsite. So let's do that. We'll click on calendar to add the calendar app. It wants us to name it. Let's call this the HR calendar and click on create. And now we're currently looking at the site contents area of the HR subsite. And over here, we have the HR calendar and a little indicator indicating this is a new item that recently got added. So to launch that calendar, we just go ahead and click on it. And there's the HR calendar, and it operates like a calendar would. So if we want to add some item, we can go to a date, perhaps at some point in the future. Let's go to November and grab a date. So we'll click on the 16th and we'll click on add. And we'll title it sample meeting, and you can add the other details for the calendar. And then when we're done, we'll simply go down to the bottom and click on save to save that calendar item. And now that's part of the calendar. Now, besides having a calendar app that's now available to us in SharePoint, we'd also want to make it easy for the users to access this. What we could do is we could go ahead and copy the URL. I'm just going to right click on the URL, click on copy, and let's go to the home page for the HR subsite. And in the quick launch, we can go ahead and add the HR calendar. Now, there's an HR calendar link here under recent because we were just there a few moments ago. But if we wanted to edit that quick launch bar for the HR subsite, we can simply use this option called Edit Links. So we'll click on the Edit Links option over here on the quick launch side. And there's some drag and drop functionality of dragging a URL in. It's currently in my clipboard on this Windows 10 computer. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol to add a link. We'll go ahead and call this HR calendar. And then I'll go ahead and do a Control V to paste in that URL. I'm going to go to the beginning of that just to make sure it has HTTP, and it does. And we'll click on OK. There's also an option if we wanted to try that link before we save it, just to make sure that it works. So I'll go ahead and click on OK, and then we'll click on Save. So over here on the left now, in the quick launch area, we have the link for the HR calendar that can be used by the team members for HR who are using this HR site. And just to verify it works, let's go ahead and click on HR calendar. And sure enough, looks good. And if we go to November, I just want to make sure that the appointment that we set up is still in the calendar and it's working. Fantastic. Then we can click on the other links to go back to the other areas of the site. I just clicked on the HR subsite to go to the home page of the HR subsite. So that's how we could add a calendar application. If we wanted to add a picture library, we'd simply go to the site we want, go to the gear icon in the upper right, and then select Add an App from the drop-down menu once again. If we scroll down in the apps that we can go ahead and install, here we have the option for adding a picture library. And the question may come up, well, what is the difference between a document library and a picture library? And the answer is not a whole bunch, but the picture library does have some ability to show thumbnails, so you can see what the pictures are from a thumbnail perspective, while the general document library app is not going to have that feature right out of the gate. So we'll go ahead and click on Picture Library. We'll call this HR Pictures and press Enter to go ahead and create that picture library. So it is right here. And I'm going to right click on this and open it up in a separate window just to make sure it comes up. So we'll right click, say Open a New Tab, and then we'll go to it. Fantastic. So there's our HR Picture Library. It happens to be empty, but we could upload some pictures if we wanted to. So let's go ahead and click on Upload. We'll click on Choose Files. And I'm going to go to the C drive on this computer and the Windows folder, and let's do a search for asterisk.jpg. And that may take a while as it searches the Windows folder and everything below it for anything with the .jpeg extension. So I'm going to scroll down through here, and I just selected image 0, img0. So instead of searching for all JPEGs in the lab when you practice this, you just want to look for img0.jpg. That might be easier to go ahead and select it. I'm going to click on OK, which adds that to the library. Then we can repeat the process to go ahead and add other images to this picture library. And there's the thumbnail. So regarding this picture, if we hover over it, in the bottom right hand corner we have the ellipses. If we click on the ellipses, it has a URL for that image. And if we wanted to open it, we can click on Open right here. And there's yet another ellipses right here that we can click on for more actions. So here we can look at the properties of the picture. We could download a copy, we could delete it, etc. If we wanted our team to be able to get to this very easily, we'd also probably want to edit the quick launch to put a link in so that the users could easily find this HR picture library and access the contents. Maybe they have pictures of all the employees, for example, in the HR picture library. It could be used for any pictures they wanted to keep there. And since we're right here anyway, let's go ahead and click on HR Pictures, and let's just go ahead and copy that URL, do a copy, and let's edit the links in the quick launch to go ahead and add it. So we'll click on Edit Links. We'll click on plus to add a new link. We'll call this HR Picture Library, and then we'll do a Control V to paste in that address. And we'll click on OK, and then click on Save. So now we have the calendar from a few moments ago, And we also have in the quick launch the HR picture library, and both of them seem to work just fine. And the last example that we talked about for an application would be a survey. So once again, to add a survey to the HR subsite, would be in the HR subsite, and then click on the gear in the upper right-hand corner, go to add an app from the drop-down, and then scroll down till we go to the survey app, which is right here in my output on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So we'll go ahead and select it to add the survey app. We'll call it the HR survey and click on create. So it dropped us back to the site contents for the HR subsite. And here's our HR survey. So if we wanted to work with that, we can simply go ahead and click on the HR survey. And we can change the settings right here. So under settings, we can click on add questions. And then we could type a question in. For example, what is the square root of 4? And then the type of answer that we're expecting, you can select that. And if we go down, we can put our answers in. So we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then go all the way to the bottom and click on finish. We could also provide a link so that users could go ahead and take the survey. If we wanted to respond to the survey, there's a link right here, just to the left of actions, which says respond to this survey. So if we click on it, we could then go ahead and answer the question, click on finish, and then it would record our answer as part of SharePoint. And then regarding that answer, we could export that data and analyze that data to get the feedback. So in the example of a team where we're asking questions about how we should proceed or what their thoughts are on a topic, this would be an easy way in-house to have a built-in survey mechanism as part of SharePoint to gather that information from the team. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the square root of 4 is 2 and click on finish. And now you'll notice it says the number of responses is 1 based on the current user I was logged on as. So if we go all the way back to the Acme top level site, you'll notice that on the quick launch on the left, all those quick links that we set up for the HR site are not here. But if we go to the HR subsite, we have links for the calendar and the picture library because we added them as part of that HR subsite. In this nugget, we identified that in a SharePoint site, we can have apps. And an app can be basically one of 3 different major categories. It could be a list, which is like a database or Excel table that contains items such as appointments in a calendar list, contacts in a contact list, or tasks in a task list. And we could also create our own custom list and use them as we need to in a SharePoint environment. The second type would be some type of a library, like a document library or a picture library. And a library can do almost everything that a list can do. It has many of the same settings and features. The main difference is what they contain. A list contains items, while libraries contain files. And then regarding additional applications, above and beyond lists and libraries, there is a boatload that are built into SharePoint 2016, and there are thousands that are available through third parties that can provide specific functions and needs based on the business who wants to use those apps. And now that we've taken a look at how to create some apps in the SharePoint environment, I would encourage you, as part of your CBT Nuggets membership, to go ahead and click on the lab link to the right if you're logged in from a computer and get the hands-on practice creating the 3 apps that we demonstrated in this nugget. So have some fun getting that hands-on practice to reinforce these concepts. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.